Hello everyone, it's Melanie here with Vintage Hill Studio. Look what I am going to do today. These cute little plump watercolor birds inspired by Diane Antone Studio. Go check her out on YouTube. She has wonderful watercolor videos. Anyway, I will be starting with a watercolor pencil to sketch out the body of my birds. And the reason I'm doing this is because the lines will actually disappear as you add water with your watercoloring. I will use a variety of brushes starting with this number 10, and I'm going to wet the surface thoroughly for both my little birds. Now again, I am not as proficient at watercolor as I'd like to be. I love watching people watercolor. It's very soothing to me. And I really, really wish that I could get the knack of this. So I'm going to just keep trying here and working on things. I think watercolorists are actually the most free people. They just go for it. I love when it's abstract or impressionistic, which means it doesn't have to be perfect. And that is really a goal I want to achieve for myself because I'm a very controlled person. I like things to be precise. I'm a top to bottom, left to right kind of person. I think that's probably from my analytical background. So my whole career was in IT, but I've always loved art. And so I branch out into different areas to see if I can pick up different mediums. Some of them I'm better at, some I'm not. But I just love the freeing nature that watercolor seems to bring into your life. And if you watch some of the very talented watercolorists like Diane Antone, you will see they just drop color in and let it do its thing. Now that's freedom in its purest form of art. So I just love that. And while I've come, a little ways in some of my watercoloring, I'm still not as free as I'd like to be in letting the watercolor do its own thing. This goes back to that control issue. I say it's an issue, sometimes it's a virtue, depends on what you're doing in life, right? Whether you've got complete control or you need to give up control. When we realize we really don't have too much control over anything, that's an epiphany right there. And it's true, we can control ourselves to a point, and then there's a lot of things outside of our control. So I guess in, working with watercolors, I'm kind of letting go towards that other aspect that you really don't have control over anything. But anyway, back to the painting here. You can see, if you watch some of the, really good watercolorists, they'll say, drop your color in, let it do its thing, walk away. Well, that's easier said than done for some of us who have to go back over and over and over, which I don't think you're supposed to do with watercolor. And if you do a good job with it, people get the idea of what the object is that you're painting. But anyway, these were a lot of fun, and I actually love the way the little card turned out. It is some little round whimsical birds and some bright color, so there's a lot to love about it. And if you will just follow some of the advice of the watercolor people who are very good at this, I think it would be a whole lot of fun. I had fun with this, but you can see I rework areas, which is something you're not really supposed to do. So anyway, learning process for me, but I wanted to share that with you, especially if you've never watercolored before. Go get a little pan like I have right here. I think this was from Hobby Lobby. It was not a big investment of these cake watercolors. It folds up very flat, so it doesn't take up much storage in your craft room. And it's a fun little set to start with to see if you even like to watercolor. You don't want to make a huge investment in case it's some medium that you're not really interested in. So if I can inspire anybody to go out and buy a few inexpensive brushes and an inexpensive palette of watercolor cakes or tubes, then I feel like this would have been a productive card here to, share with you. Give it a try. If I can do it, you can do it. And then go out and watch people like Diane, Antone, and Emma LaFave. I will try to link to some of their videos up there in the right-hand corner. If you see that little eye icon pop up, go visit their channel. They've got wonderful videos that will give you so much inspiration to jump out and try something new. Or if you have been watercoloring for a while, still go visit. You never know what might spark an idea for you. All right, back to my little birds. I go in and you can see I have a few pictures of these after they dry. They dry back quite a bit lighter. And then, so sometimes I want to go in and add a little more color, and so I dabble with that here and there. Right now I'm going in to ground my birds to give them something to stand on. This could be the ground, it could be a limb, just use your imagination. Which brings me to another point here. Why is it so important that we teach our children, and we were taught to color inside the lines? I mean, aren't you in awe of people who color outside the lines and do things differently? I am. Again, from a person who leads a very controlled life and had a very controlled career and so on and so forth. I mean, I really look up to those people who color outside the lines, think outside the box, come up with creative things. How wonderful. I'm glad that we're all so different in that way. Because maybe we inspire each other to try something that we were taught to stay away from. Stay within the lines. Make all the colors match and coordinate and so forth. Well, after a while that can be pretty boring, right? So thank goodness there's diversity and everybody thinks in different ways. And that leads me to what I've been saying during this video. Get out and try something new. The only thing you should be afraid of is not changing. So try it. Maybe you're not the best at it, but at least you've tried it. And what if you love it? What if you get better at it? Try it. If you don't like it, don't do it anymore. But at least you're giving it a try. All right, back to the card. I'm sorry I diverse so much here, but these thoughts go through my head as I'm making things sometimes, and I just want to share that with you. Don't be afraid. We shouldn't judge one another, and surely don't judge yourself the harshest. That's what we usually do. So don't judge. Just jump out and try something new. See if you like it. See if it frees up your mind and your spirit a little bit. Then you will have accomplished something. Okay. Taking this finer brush here, I'm adding the little legs. I want these brown parts at the top of their legs to kind of melt into their body. So I'm going to go back here in a little bit and add a little more water since my birds are completely dry. And I wanted to let them dry before I added my legs because I don't want their legs to run all over into their body. But I do want those top portions to kind of ooze up into the color. So that's why I'm adding a little more water here at the base. I guess the hardest part for me is letting this stuff dry. Now, watercolor does dry quite a bit faster than, say, acrylics, and certainly faster than oils. So it really doesn't take that long, but if you're on a roll, you want to just keep going. Well, sometimes you have to wait for different layers to dry. And from what I've learned in watching other people who really know what they're doing, is if you will let that happen naturally, either naturally or with a little handheld dryer, your colors will remain more true. In other words, when you're doing wet on wet, you can get some muddy outcomes. But if you wait every now and then layer it in, that's another beauty of the watercolor process. So I'm learning as I go here, and there are so many great people to learn from, especially out on YouTube. Okay, so here I go again. See, you shouldn't be reworking this stuff so much. But after it dried, I decided, okay, now I really like these brighter colors, so I'm just going to go back, add a few wet areas, make sure I get up around the eye area there a little bit, and try to assimilate somewhat of a round body and a winged effect on my birds. So that's what I'm doing here with this process. Trying to brighten this back up. Again, I guess as you do this more, you learn that it's always going to dry back lighter. So there you go. Oops, now I get a little too much, so you can just go back with clear water, and when you do that, it dilutes your color back down, and you can also mop up color with just a clean brush. Right, there we go. Little flicks of tails, a little more vibrant color, and when that is dry, I come in with a brown Sharpie and just go around the outline of my little legs and toes. And then I'll also go around the beaks just to give them a little more definition. And that's going to really make those parts stand out quite a bit. Just this little bit of light ink work here with the fine point Sharpie. Then I will switch over to a black fine point Sharpie and add the little toenails and the eyes. And I like to add my eyes kind of at the top part of each beak. And I wanted them to be looking at one another. So that's how I kind of gauge where I'm going to add the eyes. I look at the top portion of the beak, and I'm going to go somewhere between that top portion and down along their faces. Now they're coming to life. Aren't they cute little fat, rounded, whimsical birds? They really are cute. So if you can draw a circle, you can paint these birds. And your circle, remember, does not need to be perfect. So don't stress about that stuff. That's why I like branching out and working in this medium. It is outside of my comfort zone. I hope to not fret about it so much in the future, but I guess that comes with practice and gaining a little more confidence with your watercolor. Okay, now I'm just using a couple of Post-its. These are just regular Post-its that you write your notes on. I'm covering up most of my birds, and I will go back to that fine brush, which will give me some really fine little splatters. The bigger your brush, the bigger your splatters. So you might want to intermix that. I wish I had done that here. I just used this fine brush, and so you get fine little lines of splatter. You can see how that kind of comes across my Post-it note in little lines of splatter. Well, that's what it's going to look like on your background. So if I had switched here to my medium brush as well, I would have an intermix of these fine little splatters and some bigger splatters, but that's okay. You can see, not to fret about some of these things, in the end, the card comes out just fine. So I'm just adding a few of the colors that I used in my composition here, the greens, the blues, and a little bit of that yellow. And there we go. If you accidentally get a little splatter on your birds, just wet your brush and work it out. It'll work right out of your picture there. Okay, so there are my finished birds. And then I am going to move on and pick some colors for a mat. And then kind of the background mat for my card. And I'm going to put those on a 5x7-inch card base that is in a cream color. And there is my finished card. I hope you enjoyed this video today, that you get inspired to try watercolor. Go visit some of the people that I've noted on this video and watch their beautiful works of art. And thank you for dropping by. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. If you're returning, I would love to hear a comment from you, and I hope to see you all again next week. Happy crafting, everyone!